Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here. In today's video, I want to do a 2026 salary cap update for the Washington Commanders. How much salary cap will they have going into the offseason? How many free agents are they going to have to re-sign, extensions, and all of that? If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well. We're like 5 subscribers away from 16,100. Let's get there. Just a few of you guys hit that subscribe button. Comment down below what free agents you want the Washington Commanders to go after. So let's talk about this. And I know people want, some people at least want to talk about the game, and that's cool. And I will, maybe make a preview video on Saturday or something like that, and obviously a post game. But guys, the season's over. It's about young players, performing. It's about, building for the next year, draft capital, which they weren't able to get any more during the season. It's about, getting extensions done with players you want to be here, and more of that kind of stuff. And moving on into the next season, how much salary cap do they have? They got around $82 million. Their cap space is actually good. They are sixth overall in cap space, which is good for the Washington Commanders. They do not have a lot of guys under contract for that year, so that might bring it down a little bit, but still, they're in a good spot here. They're in a good spot salary cap wise. And, if we, bring it in here to, these guys right here, just looking at the salary cap, what the number is and everything, you see what it is. This is for 2025. Sorry about that, but you guys can see that. And we'll move on to 2026, and you guys can see some of the other years. That doesn't matter. We don't have, anyone under contract for, most of those years. But 2026, they have the $82 million in cap space. Deron Payne, his cap number is $28 million. That is going to have to change. So whether they extend, trade him, one of them is happening, because $28 million is not happening. So, even if he gets a raise in the salary, it's going to bring the cap number down, because over his contract, it wasn't near $28 million, which, in terms of what he was making, I believe it was around 20-ish, maybe a little bit more. So 28 is a little bit ridiculous. And then also, when you extend a deal, usually the first years are kind of lower cap hits. So that's probably what they would be able to do with Deron Payne, or they can trade him, get some draft capital. That could make sense as well. Marshawn Lattimore is on the roster, but they can actually save $18.5 million if they cut him. It doesn't matter if it's post June 1st, before June 1st, and there's no dead money. That's an obvious cut. There's no way he's back, and that puts you at over $100 million in cap space, I believe. So, that is a really, really good spot, or maybe not over, but right around that amount for the Washington Commanders. So they're in a really good spot there. I think, right around $100 million in cap space. Terry's number is going to stay, but the next year they would be able to, move on from Terry McLaurin a little bit, but it's still, the cap number is 34 in 2027. For some reason, I thought it was an easier out, but they can, it would still be a $16 million loss. The 2028 year, that's when you can kind of, a lot easier get out of the Terry McLaurin deal. But going back to 2026, some moves that they can make. I talked about Marshawn, that gives you over 100. Deron Payne, let's kind of meet in the middle. Even if they extend them, I'm assuming they save around $10 million in cap space. But if they, trade him or whatever, then that would definitely, save them even more. So if they trade, they would save $17 million in cap space. So let's call it around $10-12 million. So they're already at 100. They're around $115 million in cap savings, or cap space going into next year, which puts them in a really, really good spot. If we look at the rest of the teams and the cap space, in 2026, that would put them at number one by a sizable margin, by like $7 million. The thing is, though, is that some of these teams will be able to save some more cap space. I'm not sure if all of them will probably save a little bit, but we'll see how many save a sizable amount. Like the Commanders, I'm sure they're going to go over the Rams and some of these teams, but then also some of these teams are going to have to extend guys, so you're going to have to watch out for that, and that'll definitely change up everything a little bit too. But the Commanders, in terms of cap space, are in a really, really good spot going into this offseason, which is going to allow them to really rebuild this squad so they can go over, get some free agents. We're going to talk about some of the free agents that they have right now that are going to possibly be gone in a little bit. But first, a word from today's sponsor. And a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys check them out. They got a bunch of good deals. You can get a free $20 entry. You can also use my code Pedro on Sleeper and get a 100% match up to $100. So let's say you put in 20, you'll get 40 total to make picks to win real money on Sleeper. So a bunch of different picks that you can make. There's college football tonight, tomorrow, and then obviously NFL on Sunday with the Commanders and Dolphins facing off early at 9:30 Eastern time, and there's some other games as well. So make sure you guys check out Sleeper. Link in the description for the promo code. Thanks again. Alrighty, so again, huge shout out to Sleeper there. Let's talk about some of the free agents for the Washington Commanders. Who is going to be an unrestricted free agent? So you got Deebo Samuel as one, void. So I guess he's still under, he's gonna, there might still be some money on the books. I'm not completely sure there. Bobby Wagner, Mariota, Ertz, Von Miller, Jones, Matt Gay, Austin Eckler, Wiley, Dietrich Wise, Noah Brown, Tress Way, Jacob Martin, Noah Igbenogany. You guys can see the rest of the list. I'm trying to Traylon Burks, Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a big one. Chris Paul is the big free agent for the Washington Commanders. I would like, he's had a good season, and I would like to get an extension done before free agency. Get him, to get his money. And, he hasn't made a lot of money in his career. I mean, obviously, in comparison to other careers, sure. But, he was a 7th round pick. He's played 4 years in the NFL. I think if you show him some money and give him a reasonable deal, you can get a very good deal on Chris Paul if you offer him after the season's over, which for the Commanders is going to be pretty early. If you want to even get it done now, get it done now. So that could be in January, February. I have no idea what it will take to get a deal done with Chris Paul. I don't think it'll be a lot, but he has had a good season. But then also, he was 7th round pick, which, draft status does matter a little bit. Teams are willing to pay for guys that are a little bit more talented. And then, but more importantly, he's only started for, less than a season, and it was this year. So he doesn't have a lot of sample size out there. So maybe the Commanders can get a good deal. Again, I don't know. Maybe around, it's so hard because he has played pretty well, but around 10 million is my guess. That could be so off. It could be way less than that, or it could be way more than that. But I'm going to go, hedge the bet a little bit around 10-ish a year, just because, he's played well. He's youngish, at the guard position, isn't as, value, or isn't as, I was going to say important and valuable, but isn't as, you don't get as paid as much at guard than you do at tackle, but you still get paid a decent amount. So that's my guess-ish. The guys that aren't going to come back or shouldn't come back, Deebo, who knows? If you can get him back for cheap, that's fine, but we need younger receivers. Bobby Wagner, love what he did last year. He's cool, but he's got to go. Mariota, that's fine if want to bring him back. Ertz, again, same exact thing as Bobby Wagner, but he's got to go. Von Miller, gone. Jonathan Jones, gone. Matt Gay, definitely gone. Austin Eckler, if they decide to bring him back, whatever, but it's an Achilles injury. He's older. I think they got to move on. Andrew Wiley, if they want to bring him back, fine. Dietrich Wise, gone. Noah Brown, definitely gone. And then I'm trying to think who else. Tress Way, I'm fine with bringing him back. Jacob Martin can bring him back. No Igbenogany. If they want to, it's fine. I won't really care either way. Josh Johnson can go. Trent Scott's fine to stay. McNichols is fine. Honestly, McNichols, if you want to keep him instead of, keeping Eckler, I think that's fine. Preston Smith, Robbie Chosen, he's been cool, but it's fine to go. Same thing with obviously Preston Smith, George Fant, the rest of the crew. I mean, guys, it's bad. Traylon Burks would like to keep him. The keeps I want: Chris Paul, Traylon Burks, and then maybe Drake Jackson, and then like Tress Way, and some of the others I mentioned would be good for the Commanders to keep. But there's so many that they got to go, man. Like, they got to go. Bobby Wagner, and then a lot of the rest of this crew. It wasn't pretty for them. So I love what they did, some of them, but it's time to move on for the Washington Commanders. But that is it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. Just wanted to give you guys a glimpse into the offseason, and they can really turn things around. So I didn't talk about potential free agents they could sign. Maybe that'll be another video, but thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.